You are not tired because your life is too hard. You are tired because you keep living it twice. Once in reality and once inside your head. Before the conversation happens, you imagine it. After it ends, you replay it. Before the decision is made, you predict every possible outcome. After the mistake happens, you punish yourself with every version of what you should have done differently. That is overthinking. It feels like thinking, but it is not. Thinking moves you forward. Overthinking keeps you trapped in the same room, opening the same door, hoping this time it leads somewhere else. And the worst part is, it almost feels responsible. You tell yourself you are just being careful, just preparing, just trying to avoid mistakes. But deep down, something else is happening. You are trying to feel safe, because your brain was never designed to make you calm. It was designed to keep you alive. And survival depends on prediction. What if they leave? What if I fail? What if I say the wrong thing? What if everyone sees me differently after this? Your mind runs these simulations because for most of human history, missing danger was worse than imagining it. If your ancestors heard a sound in the dark and assumed it was nothing, they could die. If they assumed it was danger and they were wrong, they only lost a little energy. So the brain learned to search for threats, not truth. Threats. That is why one weird reply can ruin your whole day. That is why one awkward moment feels louder than 10 normal ones. That is why your mind can ignore everything that went fine and obsess over the one thing that felt slightly off. Overthinking is not your brain being wise. It is your brain scanning for danger. And every time you replay the situation, you get a tiny feeling of control. For a few seconds, it feels useful. You find the perfect answer, the perfect comeback, the perfect plan, the perfect explanation. Then the relief disappears. So you think again, and again, and again, until your mind is exhausted but nothing has actually changed. Because most overthinking is not about solving the problem, it is about trying to remove uncertainty. And that is where people get stuck. Because uncertainty cannot always be removed. You can send the perfect message and still not control how someone reads it. You can make the right choice and still not know what happens next. You can prepare as much as possible and still fail. Life does not give you certainty before you act. It gives you information after. So the way out is not to think harder. The way out is to notice when thinking has stopped helping. Ask yourself one question. Is there an action here? If yes, take the smallest one. Send the message. Ask the question. Apologize. Study for 20 minutes. Make the decision. Start the thing. Not perfectly. Just enough to move. Because action gives your brain new evidence. Overthinking only recycles old fear. But if there is no action, then you are not dealing with a problem. You are dealing with a feeling, and feelings cannot be solved by thinking. They have to be felt. That is uncomfortable, because your brain will beg you to keep checking. Check the message again. Replay the conversation again. Analyze their tone again. Predict tomorrow again. But every time you refuse to feed the loop, you teach your brain something important. I can feel uncertain and still be safe. That is how you stop overthinking. Not by becoming someone who never has anxious thoughts, but by becoming someone who does not obey every thought just because it feels urgent. Because urgency is not always truth. Sometimes urgency is just fear speaking loudly. So when your mind starts building the worst possible future, pause and ask, what do I actually know? Not what do I fear? Not what could happen? What do I actually know? You do not know they hate you. You know they replied differently. You do not know you will fail. You know you are scared. You do not know everyone noticed. You know you felt embarrassed. That difference matters, because overthinking turns feelings into facts, and freedom begins when you separate them again. Fear is real, but fear is not proof, so let the thought appear. Let the uncertainty exist. Let your brain make noise, and then return to the real world. Because your life does not change inside the imagined conversation. It changes in the real one. It does not change in the perfect plan. It changes when you start. Peace does not come from knowing exactly what will happen. Peace comes from trusting yourself to handle what happens next.